the U.S. Constitution was written. It needed to be ratified by 9 states. They had 8. New Hampshire was in line to be the 9th, but New Hampshire was in a deadlock. They pause. They have a day of fasting. They come back, and Harvard President Samuel Langdon gives an address to the New Hampshire delegates titled, "The Republic of the Israelites, an Example to the American States." Instead of the 12 tribes of Israel, we may substitute the 13 colonies of the American Union. See this application plainly. What was the Republic of the Israelites? It was this first 400-year period. Now, one little instance is worth noting. How do republics go back to be running by tyrant kings? Abimelech. Sorry, so Gideon wins. They come to Gideon. They say, "You be a king over us." He goes, "No, the Lord is your king." Right? So the Lord is the king over each individual person.
So he's still on track, yeah.
And then one of the illegitimate sons of Gideon is Abimelech. He goes to a city called Shechem, and he becomes an agitator. And he says, "Hey, you want, this other people, have me rule over you. I'm one of your kin." What do? They go to the temple of Baal-berith, and Abimelech takes 70 pieces of silver, and he hires vain and worthless persons to kill all of his brothers, and he makes himself king for a couple of years until somebody throws a millstone on his head. And so here we got this scenario. If you want to take a republic where the people are ruling, you need agitators who are paid. Another example is Athens was a democracy until Philip of Macedon, the father of Alexander the Great, found out that he could bribe citizens of Athens with money under the table, and they would betray their own city. It was in confusion. They couldn't mount a defense. He's able to come in and take over. Another is Rome. There's 600 senators, and when they get to the end, they're mostly in 3 parties run by Caesar, Pompey, and Crassus. Crassus is the richest guy in Rome. He dies. Turns into a tug-of-war between Caesar and Pompey. Caesar has no money. What does he do? He raids the Temple of Saturn in Rome. It was their federal treasury. And he takes 400 years of Roman gold to buy agitator supporters against his opponent, Pompey. And when he finally does he say, "Hey, people, you can help me run Rome"? No, he makes himself dictator for life. And so we see... Hitler had his brown shirts that he paid. Lenin had his people that he paid. And so here we see a scenario of America. And lo and behold, we have a republic where the people are king. John Jay is the first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. He says the people are the sovereign of America. You have Abraham Lincoln said the people are the rightful masters of both Congresses and courts. So in America, the people are king. Well, how do we get back to rule by a tyrant? Well, you have agitators, agent provocateurs. They come in and they create crises, and then the people say, well, we need some power, some big, strong person to come in and restore order. And the person comes in and takes away everybody's guns and makes himself a king. And so we see this scenario 500 years ago. Is this making sense?
Absolutely. Yep, I'm tracking with you.
500 years ago, Machiavelli was in Italy. Now, Italy was a bunch of city-states, Venice, Genoa, Naples, and they always fought. Machiavelli thought if one prince could control all of Italy, it would stop this infighting. So he writes a book called The Prince where he advocates the ends justifies the means. The end of one prince controlling all of Italy is such a good end that any means necessary to get there is justified. Lie, cheat, steal. So if a prince conquers a city, they would hate him. But if the prince pays criminals to kill cows, burn barns, create crisis and terror, the people would cry out for help. The prince would come in and get rid of the people he bribed, and everyone would praise the prince as a hero. So it's actually good marketing. You create the need and fill it. You go around the back of the house and set it on fire, and then you go around the front of the house and sell them a fire extinguisher. And they'll pay anything for it and even thank you for being there. So it's called Machiavellianism, where you create or capitalize on a crisis to consolidate control. That influenced Hegel. Who was he? Remember, Napoleon conquers Prussia and Europe, and so the king of Prussia says we got to strengthen the state. And so who does he get? A guy named Hegel. And he came up with Hegelian dialectics. And Hegelian dialectics is a triangle. One corner is a thesis, opposite corner is an antithesis, and the top corner is a synthesis. It sounds complicated, but it's not. You start off, then you create a problem that's real bad, and everybody's happy to settle for your answer that's half as bad. And how do you create a problem that's real bad? You send in agent provocateurs, provoking agents, labor organizers, community organizers, troublemakers, and what do? They find fault lines and tensions and grievances that people have, and they stir them up until there's rioting and bloodshed, and then everybody's willing to surrender their freedoms to have order restored. 45 countries fell to communism this way.